Claris Talk AI. Chris Ippolite, my friend.
Hello, Matt. How are you, buddy?
I like the little
Yeah, for the YouTube
the
folks, I suppose, right?
if YouTube votes for the podcast listeners. It was a little
Yeah.
Victorian signal with the hand,
Yeah,
like you tip
Victorian,
your
I
hat.
think. Yeah, it was a tip and a hat to my
Tip of the hat to you, son.
fellow trainer, fellow podcast
Yeah,
host,
yeah.
fellow AI expert, fellow friend.
And Alexi Folger. Um, so uh,
Hey,
in the
Alexi.
beginning as well as the end. Um, so FileMaker 2024/22.
25, 22 slash
What am I
25.
even confused? Okay, sure. Yeah. I took
Yeah.
the meds. 25/22 is what I meant to say.
It's not quite like OpenAI's model naming convention or anything, but I think it's got two names. I think it's
Yeah. Oh,
2025 and
oh
22.
03 and 40 and yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway. So
exactly.
I think the point is though, we're gonna not talk about it because everybody else is. And I think we're gonna talk about implications of it and like what when
Sure.
the dust settles, what are the things that's actually really useful? There's so many new find features that it's confusing. There's four commands in FileMaker that have the perform find function, not counting perform find and
Hmm.
replace, which is the weird layout one. Like
Yeah,
regular
interesting. Good
find,
point.
semantic find, and the two new ones. And those have a lot of features. Anyway,
Hmm.
and I think
Interesting
connecting
point.
them all together, it's like which will do what the customer expects? And the answer, none.
Well,
That's
I think you're onto something though too. I think part of when we deploy these features is God, I think you just nailed on something really profound. And here's what I'm thinking. I mean, we can just end the podcast right here, actually, with you said something profound and then we just sign off. No, here's my thoughts is what how the customer, I don't think in the FileMaker community, and this is not a pejorative statement, this is just
mhm.
my observation. I don't think that there's going to be a groundswell of customers that are asking for things like semantic search, right? So I think what not only do we have new
No, but
AI, well, not that they don't need it. Don't get me wrong.
right,
I'm
right, right,
saying
right.
there's a two-tier education of what the capabilities of these new features are. And it starts with well, first of all, they exist. Then the
Mhm.
developers have to understand how they work and what the use cases are. And by the way, that's what I think is really missing in the dialogue in our community is use cases on AI. I think that needs to be front and center. Just like there's a couple of them on the Claris website that I was actually pretty impressed with. I
Hmm.
tried to find them again, but there's somewhere in there. If you scroll down to the bottom of one of the pages, I think there's actually like a semantic search page or something like
And a
that.
link to it. We'll put it in the show notes. Yeah.
Okay,
'Cause
cool.
I'm with you completely. And I've got, I
Well,
don't know, five, six, seven design patterns, use cases that I think are pretty easy to implement and meaningful. And like, if you have a need for this particular thing, this is a drop-in thing that you should use, configure it to what you
sure.
need.
Well,
Uh,
but like, so you had to figure that out, right? Like, you had to
yeah.
go, oh, what is the semantic search thing?
Yeah.
Okay, what are the script steps? What are
Yeah. I've
the
been thinking a lot about it.
options?
How
And
simple
then
can it
you,
be?
then you have to figure out use cases because you have to communicate to your constituents, whether they be trainees or whether they're
Right.
your customers, about,
Yep.
well, this is why this is different, and these are use cases where this would come in handy. And only then will customers start to be able to think, wow, I need this, right? Like this is something that I need because here's a problem that I think it can solve for me. But right now, I think where all the attention should be going is in anyone who's out there that's doing it. And I know there's people out there doing cool things with,
Mhm.
I'm not just going to call it semantic search. It actually kind of bothers me quite a bit because the feature isn't semantic search. The feature is support for embeddings. And one of the things you can do is semantic search. You
Right.
can also do matching
Well
and
said.
various other things. And so that's important. But we should be elevating stories about who's actually using them and what problems they're solving.
Mhm.
I mean, I try to put my money where my mouth is. My last two sessions at Engage have literally just been, these are use cases of AI, like real stuff that people are using AI for. I even brought
Right.
two customers with me at my last one and said, let's talk about what we're using AI for. And I think then the conversation kind of happens like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, you know what? I have that same problem. Oh, this is a tool that can solve it. Rather than just like force feeding a bunch of features and just being like, here you
Yeah.
go,
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
is a bunch of stuff. Like, let's talk about problems that need to be solved. I really think that's where this
Yeah.
begins and ends, honestly.
Yeah, it dovetails into education, which is what we're really talking
It
about.
does. Yeah,
Yeah, so like,
absolutely does.
that like for example, if you have multilingual data, names in different languages, perform semantic find is magic. It's frickin' magic. You can type a name in any
I
language and it
liked
will
your
find it
demo
in
on
any
that.
language.
Yeah, yep, yep.
Uh, and there's never been anything even close to that for FileMaker before. I don't know, maybe some, difficult integrations with other engines. Basically, it has to be some sort of an embedding thing.
Yeah. I would say
Anyway,
matching to me, I keep trying
yes,
to
yes,
push the
yes.
message of matching. Like
Yep.
one of the key tactics, by the way, like
Duplicate
in
checking.
yeah, duplicate checking is a good one too.
Yeah.
The one of the big things in like the AI development community, like I'm sitting here like I well, you know what? I do know actually. Yes. In one of the real tools that you can use is something called semantic scoring. And the semantic scoring, if I was to, let's see, speaking of coming up with an example, like let's say you're saying, I have a model with its latent intelligence. It's, like some open source model that I got and it's got no
Mhm.
training and I don't know how much it knows about, let's say, FileMaker. So I'll go and I'll come up with some prompt and completion pairs, like let's say 200 questions about FileMaker where it's a question and then the correct answer. And then what I do is I
Mhm.
feed all those into this model and it comes back with its answer. Right. So then
Mhm.
what you do is you run embeddings on what the answer is supposed to be, and you run embeddings on what answer the model gave you. And then what do? You match those together to see what semantic score you get. Like it's the cosine similarity of the answer you expected and the answer you got. And somewhere in there, you're going to get a number, right? And somewhere
Mhm.
in there is an acceptable threshold of accuracy. All
Right.
right. So you'll say, well, out of these 200, really, it should have been like 0.85
Right.
accuracy for this. And so then what you do is you either go, this model is acceptable for moving forward, or you do other training tasks like you do like, I don't know, introduce RAG into that workflow and
Mhm.
then score your models, or just do fine tuning, which
Yep.
it's such a rare, no one really does fine tuning, but let's say you do fine tuning,
Yeah.
then you'd run the same 20 questions again and then get your answers back and see if your score went up, right?
Right.
That is
Yeah.
all based on embeddings. And that's not searching at all. Like that's like a matching type
Mhm.
thing. So there's a
Yeah.
ton of things we can do with this stuff. So it's a matter of understanding use cases and getting it out there and really just educating people on what this is. And we absolutely are talking about educating people on AI, but one thing that you and I have in common is that we're both educators, we're both
Handsome.
trainers. Well, maybe you.
Yeah. No.
And so, I've been thinking a lot about the impact of AI on education. And I say that in a couple frames. Like first,
Yeah.
my wife is a teacher. She's a elementary school special ed teacher, and in about 2 weeks, this is a big household victory for me, Matt. I finally got her to read a book on AI. So if you're out there and you're hearing me talk and you're thinking, gosh, there's a blight droning on about AI again, and you're not going to listen, well, it happens to me in my home on a daily basis. My wife is a slow adopter, but that's what makes our relationship work, frankly. But she just read the Brave New Words. You remember the Sal
Oh,
Khan
yes,
book
yes,
we talked
yes.
about last year? She read that because in 2 weeks she's doing a AI for teachers, like a multi-week course that her school district is
Is
putting on, and
that
I'm really
that's the
impressed.
Khan Academy book? Is that the one?
Yes, Sal
Yes, yes,
Khan's
yes. Mhm.
Brave New Words book in there, and
Yes.
uh, and there's some interesting points in that book as well too. And
Many.
as it turns out, I'm also doing a speaking gig on Friday about AI and education, so I got a lot of this stuff top of mind, and
Yep.
it's really so we're not talking about um like teaching people about AI. We were just talking about that. Now we're
Hmm.
talking about let's look at the impact that AI can have on education itself because I think there's some profound shifts happening, and I'm very fascinated to see how this all plays out. And I'm
Absolutely.
everything from school to university to just like how people can teach themselves new things, and these tools
Right.
are really they're here. They're definitely here. The some of the things, I want to get your opinion on something actually. So, I used to do a lot of training for Linda Weinman's lynda.com. You
Yeah.
remember
Yeah.
lynda.com, and then it
Yep.
got bought by LinkedIn Learning.
Yep.
So before Linda became a huge billionaire, because she sold to Microsoft is what I'm saying. Like that
Mhm.
turned out really well for her. You know what? Actually, let me share something with you, buddy. Here, let's do it. Yeah, there we go. So she had this philosophy that can you see what I'm looking at here? Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
cool. So she
Read
had
every
this
word for the
philosophy.
podcast, people.
Yes, just we'll speak to it. It's just some visual. Don't worry, you're not missing anything cool.
It's a
But
scientific paper.
a scientific paper on adapting to the AI disruption, the IT landscape and educational paradigms.
Hmm.
Actually, let me move to this next one. This is the one that actually, what we're looking at right now is a paper from 1993 from a psychologist named Allison King, and it's called "From Sage on the Stage to Guide on the Side." So let's talk about this. I'm really
We've
interested in
talked
your
about this
opinion on this.
before. Yeah.
Yeah, and so Linda was really big on Guide on the Side. I didn't really Linda Weinman, that was from
Hmm.
lynda.com. I didn't
Hmm.
really know what she was talking about back in the day. And believe it or not, we used to have access to her as authors. Like when they were still a little mom and pop shop, every
Yeah.
Wednesday they'd take all the authors out to dinner up in Ojai, California. And it was really cool. I got to know her pretty well and her husband Bruce and
Hmm.
they wouldn't take my calls now, of course, but because of me, not them. But she talked about guide on the side. And now
Hmm.
to kind of punctuate this, the technology at the time, the thing that actually made her a billionaire, believe it or not, was that she was like first to market on VHS training. I know it's insane to think about that. First of all, for the kids, well, there's no kids listening, so never mind.
There's
But
some.
okay, so VHS are used to be these tapes that we would put into this big, huge, bulky machine and feed it
What's a
into our
tape?
TV. Exactly. And then we'd sit. I'm even trying to think about how this was effective. Like you'd sit in your living room, I guess. This was actually before laptops were actually
Yeah.
really prevalent. So like I don't even know how that was working. I did it. I don't really
Yeah.
can't remember how I did it. But the point was she was saying, look, this is the closest thing we've got to this guide on the side philosophy. And so what's your
Hmm.
take on Sage on the stage? What do you think this difference is between Sage on the stage and Guide on the side,
Yeah,
besides their
it's
fun
funny because
wordplay?
I think about these things a lot, like looking at these terms in the classes I teach. So, stage on the stage is kind of a lot of trainings do. Honestly, the way kind of we used to even teach FileMaker, like standing in front of the room with a podium,
Yep.
talking about the features and showing them, and in kind of a slick way, but not having the people in the class engage and check what they're doing, not
That's
adjusting the
key.
speed of what you're doing to what they're doing. Um,
Literally just kind of like spewing knowledge, right? And
yeah,
and
viewing
in this
knowledge. Yeah, yeah.
in this paper that
Yeah,
we're looking
knowledge,
at,
knowledge, not skills.
yeah, well, because you're really not checking in to see if skills are whether it's
Mhm.
sticking, right? And so in this
Right.
paper that we're looking at, this
Hmm.
Allison King talked about the transmittal model. So what you just described is transmittal. It's literally like I'm the lecturer, I have all the knowledge, I'm just like I'm transmitting the knowledge into the student who is an empty vessel on this topic, and all
Right.
all I'm doing is just filling up their brain with knowledge, right? And there's really no like you really nailed it. There's no checking in with them, adaptability, adjusting, nothing dynamic. Like literally every single person in the classroom, gets the same information. They all walk out of there with the same information. But I mean, the users aren't all the same, right? So the users are all at different places. There are different types of learners. They have different curiosities, whatever it is, but they're all getting the same thing. And
Hmm.
for years, that was really the move. Now, the opposite. So your take on guide on the side, or what they call in this paper, the constructivist model. Oh, whoops. Sorry.
Constructivist. Okay.
Yeah, the constructivist is the guide on the side model, and the there we go. Well, what nice job here, Chris. There we go. So the constructivist model. So yeah, the people who are listening didn't see what I just did there. Constructivist is guide on the side. That means that it's one-on-one. They're focused on the learner. They're focused on adaptability and making the learner be more of a critical thinker than just somebody who's memorizing things, right? So so that's really what Linda was talking about. She imagined that VHS, believe it or not, was that VHS was actually the thing that was the guide on the side because a person could sit
Mm.
there and they could sort of like hit pause or rewind. Like that was a big thing for her.
Yep.
The pause and rewind stuff was a big deal.
Yep.
Now, of course, that moved into video, right? And that's really what the paradigm is right now, right?
Yeah.
Is that whole video thing. So
I
your
don't,
take on that, the differences there.
well, for one, it's not a guide per se, because I think all of those things really totally still meet the definition of sage on the stage, because um, they don't involve the, what am I trying to say?
Well, there's no feedback loop, right?
Yeah,
Like
there's
with
no
the
feedback loop.
VHS.
There's no. uh, accountability
That's correct. Yeah,
at
that's
all.
another great point. Yep.
So
Um,
I was thinking about something else, and I found this thing that I'll share here. This is called the learning pyramid.
ooh.
So and this I used very strongly to change how I teach. Right. Here's your lecture. This is your stage on the stage, standing in front of
Yep.
the room. And then, yeah, so if so you this is retention. I think this is really about retention because there's really two aspects of training that are important: engagement and retention. Engagement doesn't guarantee retention, but it's a big part of it. Um, and so that's the worst one, right?
That's a
Audio
huge
visual, this is
huge
your
part.
videos.
Yep.
Demonstration, when you actually show stuff, this is your DevCon video. Hey, look at your dog.
Yeah, it's Paxton. He's
Aw.
our little guest here. So this is one of the bonuses for watching on YouTube. You get to see Pax, but
Yeah. So then you get
yeah,
this discussion where you start
this is
bringing
great.
kinesthetic stuff in and practice doing. Practice doing is as far as I can get in easily in the classes I teach. This is the level I'm on when I teach all of the classes I do because everyone's sharing their screen with Zoom. Everyone's actually doing it while we're in class. I don't share my screen. They share their screen, the students.
Yep.
And so every single student during class has to demonstrate that they know how to do what we're doing. So that was something that I could actually adapt to. It would take, I love to have the people in the class teach others, but I don't think that's realistic to do in a class um, where you have an hour or 2 hours or
Yeah,
whatever.
that requires a very specific structure, right?
It
Like
would
you
be
have to kind of
great to
set
have
it
that be
up.
homework, right? Like have
Well,
students pair
actually,
up and
I here's a good transition. So you'd love to have people teach others, but why is that not realistic? I'm actually trying to
time
and
is really
well,
the only
time
thing.
and frankly resources too, right? Like
Yeah.
you like the you'd have to have one person. I'm actually deliberately trying to hold on. Pax is Pax wants to share something, so hold on. Yeah, so let me show you a screen for those that are watching at home. Hey, buddy, I'm gonna have you sit down right there. There we go. So for those that are watching this, I've got something on screen called the oh god damn the Two Sigma
Mm-hmm.
there we go. The Two Sigma problem. So so let me actually dovetail this in from what you said. It would be great if we could have a classroom full of people teaching other people, right?
Hmm.
But that
Hmm.
would actually be basically tutors. You have 10 people in a class and 10 tutors, right? And that really is the ideal. And the reason that's the ideal is because the tutor themselves can adjust to whatever learning level the user's at. The tutor themselves
Well,
can stop and hold on. Don't
it's
seagull
not
on me.
tutors,
Just
it's the students teaching each other. So
I know, but
the
I'm
students are
trying to,
tutorable. Yeah.
Matt, I'm trying to,
Yeah. I'm sorry.
yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah. So there's this paper, and because we're talking about AI in education, not just
Mhm.
education here. So let me transition into something. Uh, what I'm talking about here is this really interesting study from back in 1984, and that's
Mhm.
meaningful because of where tech wasn't in 1984. This guy named Benjamin Bloom did this study that he called the Two Sigma problem. What he discovered there was that students that had one-on-one tutoring, right, which is why I'm bringing that up, and so apologies for shifting gears there, but
Mhm.
performed in the 98th percentile as opposed to conventional learning. So, like students who would be in the 50th percentile by just having tutoring would move to the 98th percentile, which he called a two sigma improvement in learning, which
Mhm.
of course sigma is the symbol for standard deviation. So he's
Yeah,
basically
which is
saying
funny.
like a
That's
two.
actually the Greek letter S there, but probably a lot of people don't know that anyway. And
Oh,
there's two
interesting.
different symbols for the Greek letter S, depending if it's the middle of the sentence or the end of or middle of a word or the end of the word. Anyway, continue.
Oh, I appreciate. I like the way the Greek is thinking that through. So the reason I bring this up is because what he actually essentially was talking about back then was like, boy, it sure would be great. Like he was a proponent of this thing called mastery learning, which is actually what you're talking about,
Mhm.
which is more specific to the user. There's more of a feedback loop there.
Right.
They're actually asked to do some critical thinking. But what he really opined was, hey, ideally, one-on-one tutoring for every student in the world would be incredible because they could actually do a two sigma improvement on their education. That would be
Right.
great. But it's 1984. How the heck are we going to do that? I mean, this was like, wasn't 1984 like even pre-VHS? Maybe not. Maybe it was the heart of the VHS era.
Yeah. I don't know. I remember like recording Star Trek Next Generation episodes on VHS when they were broadcast on TV. I have that
It's
very
so
specific memory.
I was holding on tight to Betamax, but I guess
Oh yeah, that's how what they were filmed on actually. Next Generation.
it was
They
it
didn't
was
shoot on
better.
film. They shot on video, and
Interesting.
that's why Next Generation looks like crap now. And the original series looks amazing because the original series was shot on film, and they can transfer that to high resolution. Anyway,
Another one for our Star Trek fans
yep.
out there. And if there are any, go watch the "Is AI Conscious" video from episode from last year.
Yeah,
We
yeah, yeah.
dove deep into that. But the idea here is that in 1984, this guy had this study, and he wasn't trying to be negative by saying problem. He's like, look, if we can figure out how to get a one-on-one tutor for everybody out there, they'll get a
Hmm.
2 sigma improvement in education, right?
Right.
Well, that's where, frankly, specifically what he said was, and for those that are listening. He said, I believe an important task of research and instruction is to seek ways of accomplishing this under more practical and realistic conditions than one-on-one tutoring for every student. He's just saying it would be great, but
Mhm.
it's just not practical. If the research on the 2 sigma problem yields practical methods, applicable at a large scale. He's just basically like, we don't have one teacher for every student.
Right.
It would change the face of education. I think both you and I agree. It would certainly
Yeah.
do that.
I mean,
But
just reading that whole thing and thinking about AI, it's like so obvious. So I think I
well,
see where you're going.
Yeah, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I just
Yeah.
asking for a little I did a little bit of an abrupt thing there, no
Yeah.
question about it. And there were a lot of
Yeah.
improvements, by the way, since 1984. There was, I mean, from the mid 80s all the way to the 2000s, there were, mastery learning, peer tutoring, intelligent tutoring system, all sorts of stuff,
And a
right?
lot of
Even
them are
like,
crap, right? Like the Microsoft CD-ROMs or whatever.
oh yeah.
And then some things had a pretty big impact, like Wikipedia, but nowhere near as big as where we are now. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, they actually measured, as a matter of fact, to try to get to that one-on-one tutoring, which is that 2 sigma
Hmm.
improvement. Like the closest thing that
Hmm.
ever got there was a 1 sigma improvement, which is cognitive tutors. This is like the most recent stuff. This was in the
Early
2000s,
2000s.
domain-specific stuff, limited
Hmm.
adaptability. It was all feedback, kind of related. But
Computer technology thing or
yeah, it was basically computer. It was
okay.
basically just
I
like,
don't
hey,
even
look,
remember that.
they're like, here's how everybody's doing, so maybe I should adjust the next
Hmm.
lesson or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like that kind of a concept. So we talked about Sal Khan, and one of the things that he mentioned in this book, The Brave New Words, if anyone's interested in, actually, it's a good primer. It wasn't very like sophisticated take, but it really touches on a lot of important stuff, including
I thought it
this.
was actually a great book.
I
I
mean,
really
I'm
did.
saying if you're like worried that
Yeah.
it's all AI stuff, it's not at all. It's
No, it
actually just
isn't.
like easy, approachable, easily
Mhm.
digestible, read it in a
Yep.
weekend type stuff. So I still strongly recommend it. He talks about this 2 sigma problem in there, and and ultimately what the answer is AI, right? Like being
Hmm.
able to have AI as your guide, your true guide on the side. Every single learner can have this. And is it scalable? I mean, it's limited by people's access to the internet, certainly, right? And having machines to be able to get to the internet and be able to have
Yeah.
access to AI, but
That's
it's
actually not that much of
scalable.
a that's not that much of a limit. I mean, if you take a look at the numbers of smartphones around the world, um, it's a very large number.
Yeah, and I mean
Everywhere.
and I think there are big tech companies that are endeavoring to make that 100% saturation as quickly as they
Yeah,
can,
yeah, yeah.
right?
I
Like
don't know how
there's
far we are. Obviously, there's a lot of places where you can't get it. There's no service or whatever. But
you know
anyway, it's
th-
a
uh I mean, it's we're closer to that than ever, right? I mean, like
yeah.
we're within reach of that, certainly. And actually, when we were at Engage, I was like not sleeping, and I'm just like flipping through my timelines on stuff, and I think because I was in Austin, something showed up on my newsfeed, and it's this school that's based out of Austin called Alpha School. A little bit
Hmm.
controversial. I'm not going to necessarily say that everything
Mhm.
about them is great, but there was just one fascinating part about them, and that is that they have this structure where they do 2 hour learning. So they have like the days broken up between morning and afternoon. And
Mhm.
I might be butchering this to some degree, but I spent some time checking it out. And the in the morning, the students are all doing AI tutored, exactly what we're talking about. They have their
Mhm.
own personalized system. It
Mhm.
knows who Sally is, where she's at on her
Yep.
learning, what's her
Yep.
Lexile level and everything. What are her challenges?
Yeah.
All of that.
Very
And
customized.
100%,
Yeah.
100%
Yeah.
customized.
Well,
And
what
they
I
do
mean
that
is
for like,
it's what am I trying? So very early on when we talked about it, you're telling the model what its job is, right?
yeah,
And so you can't just open up ChatGPT and do this. You have to go in and say, here's what you are. You are you're helping me, Sally, a 9-year-old girl, learn. These are the things I really like. This is the place that I live. You know, these are the resources that, I have a bike and I have blah, blah, blah. Um, this is how I learn best. I have ADHD. These are the meds I'm on. Really, really detailed about that. So it can,
as well
right,
as
that's what I'm
detailed as
talking about. That's what
possible,
I'm talking about.
as detailed as possible. You're absolutely
Mhm.
right. And if you think about where technology can go, what you just described is writing a big prompt that makes it so that they know Sally and they know where Sally is today at the moment she's about to engage with this lesson, right? But if you think about it, technology absolutely exists to be able to track a conversation that Sally's having or an interaction that she's
Mhm.
having with course material or whatever it may be,
Mhm.
and see where she stumbles, see where she excels, see where she, hits the back button, whatever it is, and track all that information. There's actually a lot of one of the emerging one of like definitely one of the like where the puck is going fields within AI right now
Yeah.
is on memory and statefulness within AI. Because if you think about it, I mean, well, people are probably familiar with the personalization options in like ChatGPT and
Yep.
Grok and Claude and all that, where
Yeah.
you just go in there and be like, "Hey, I'm Chris. I don't like exclamation points or whatever," right?
Yeah.
But
You can also like when you're just using it for whatever, you can say, remember this. You know,
mm,
you can say like, I don't like
oh, I didn't know
exclamation
that.
points. Remember that. Or anything like that that changes. And then there's a little area you can go in that says, these are all the things that you told me to remember, and you can delete them or change
Yes,
them or whatever.
forgetfulness. So that's adding state to memories. For
Yep.
maybe some people don't even know like that's been turned on because it is by default on ChatGPT. So maybe
Yep.
you've noticed sometimes where it's referenced another conversation you had. But there's a
Mhm.
mechanism behind the scene that's gathering all these, and that's personalization and memory, and that
Mhm.
is absolutely where AI is going. I mean, you think about it from an
Open
education
window.
standpoint, where it knows everything about Sally, every course she's ever taken.
Yep.
That's what Alpha School did. I mean, loosely.
Hmm.
I dug into it. I was a little more impressed on the surface before I went than I was when I got down to what they were really doing. But what they're really doing is piping in actually Sal Khan's Khan Academy material, some other material like Magic School stuff, some other like just standard
Yeah.
courseware. But what they're doing is they're tracking the engagements and the feedback part of it, right? So every student has their own tutor that is not just like spewing knowledge or reacting, in an AI
Hmm.
tutor type way, but it knows them like perfectly.
Hmm.
Like if Sally's stuck on this one thing, they'll spend all day with her before they get past it, right?
Yep.
So it's interesting. And then just for whatever it's worth, then they spend the whole second half of the day because the kids are accelerating. They're basically getting a full day's education in half a day because of this like concept that they have. So the second half of the
Yep.
day, they teach them like soft skills and they let them do like lab work and stuff like that. It's actually kind of
Hmm.
cool. And what that's
Interesting.
led to is that they have multiple different schools, and all of the schools are now their classes are in the top 2% in testing in the country. So this is working, right? Like it's actually like a thing.
So are the teachers like
Ah,
guiding the students and taking a look at their AI conversations and taking a look at their scores?
yes.
Obviously
So
the AI agent is going to be able to track without making a mistake. It's going to know how the student did on all the tests, how they're progressing, the speed of their progression, stuff like that. But then the teacher can look at it without necessarily looking at every single thing they type. So there's still some privacy. But
the the teacher's role changes, and the teacher's role
yeah.
changes as it's like a facilitator rather than that lecturer that we talked about before, right?
Yeah,
So
and they
they're
can see where the student is and make a human judgment for like, you know, uh, this is the stuff that you should learn next now that you're here. Uh,
bingo,
yeah,
yes. And and then there's a high touch human element,
yeah,
and
I'm
there's
loving
edge
this.
case
This
stuff.
this is exactly how my wife is learning Greek, by the way. She is
Ooh.
so into ChatGPT for that because you can say, give me a test. There's a thing called language transfer, which is amazing.
Mm.
Um, and it has hundreds of lessons that help you learn. ChatGPT knows every single lesson. So you could say, quiz me about language transfer lesson, 126, and it'll know the whole thing word for word. It'll know all the words you're
Ooh.
supposed to learn. Yeah,
I
it's
have a
it's
scoop for
amazing.
you.
It's amazing.
I have a scoop for you and for your wife. Now check this out.
All
So,
right.
you might have remembered, for those that are
We showed this video
watching,
before. Yeah.
yeah, just as sort of a reference point, you remember this video where we played it was back
Yeah.
when like the Scarlett Johansson voice was the thing on ChatGPT
Yeah.
4, and you could do side by side. You can still do this, and actually, they never did they ever release the screen broadcast part? So yeah, what we're looking at is this
Yeah.
is actually Sal Khan with his kid, and they were doing a demonstration on the day that GPT 4.0 came out, and they're
Yeah.
sitting on an iPad, and on the right hand side of the iPad is a Khan Academy like a geometry course, and on the left hand
Yeah.
side is what we all now know as ChatGPT's voice mode, and
Right.
it had the broadcast feature on. I think. God, how do I not know this? But the,
Yeah.
the broadcast feature lets ChatGPT see the screen. It's the same thing as if you're talking to your ChatGPT voice mode with the camera on, like it can see your environment, but in this time it's your
Yeah.
screen.
Put a pin in
So,
that to talk about the brand new feature that dropped a couple of days ago with ChatGPT, by the way.
oh, I is it this? So a little bit of a scoop is that ChatGPT dropped in limited release. I keep hitting refresh and keep trying to update my application to get the
Mhm.
new study together feature. Is that what you're talking
Oh,
about?
that's not what I was talking about.
Oh, tell me what you're talking about before I
There's
get
like a
into study
virtual
together.
computer thing where it can run its own session
Oh, yeah,
and
the
you can
agent
have it
mode.
like log into a FileMaker database or whatever. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then actually operate things that it never has seen before. Uh,
Agent mode is insane. Agent mode is
yeah,
really a combination of operator. Did you ever get access to operator? It's or computer mode on Claude. It's basically
yeah,
where it gives you like almost a Citrix type environment,
yeah, yeah,
your
yeah.
own, instance. And then it what it does is it takes a ton of different snapshots so it sees what's on screen, and
Right,
then it actually gives direction to the computer based on the snapshots, and it can move your cursor around and perform functions, and so the evolution of computer mode was operator, and the evolution of operator is now agent mode, and it combines that with reasoning and some of the obviously a bunch of tool use, and it creates agent mode. As a matter of fact,
right.
I was, when I saw Todd Geist at um, Engage, I stopped him and I was like, hey, because he has that cool new tool, the speaking of AI in education,
Mhm.
the script, I don't know what it's called. We'll find it. We'll try to put it in show notes, but um where you type in, hey, I want a calculation or something, and then it does it goes to like OpenAI and creates the calculation for you, right? And he's got some instruction in there. And back when he was like first doing it, I ran up to him at Engage the day after, and I was like, hey, you should run that in operator mode. Like, I'd be curious if you fed your whole PRD, like your project spec to operator, so the agent knows all the different calculations and all the different scripts that you need. But the tool that you have is this tool that you created that requires someone to actually interact with it. I think it would be fascinating to actually point operator, or now agent mode, at like a online based FileMaker calculation and FileMaker script generation
Mhm.
tool, and have
Mhm.
it actually do multiple things and actually create elements of your project. I mean, that's a glimpse into where we're going in the future. But the big scoop,
Yeah.
and that was a scoop that you just dropped there. That was a big one. This one I haven't seen yet, but it's in like some testing mode. It's called Study Together. You'll eventually know it when you see it because it'll be at the bottom of your tools drop down. We're looking at some screenshots here in case anybody wants to see what it looks like. You can go on the YouTube. But Study Together does some very specific things. It's really some instruction that's on the back end. First of all, it asks you a bunch of questions. This is what we were just talking about before. The first question that it'll ask you is it'll say, hey, Sally, what's your current level? Have you already studied key sections like selection 4, 5, and 6, whatever, right? Whatever the topic is. What's your goal? Are you, studying for a test? Or do you have a quiz? Are you just curious? Like, where are we at on this thing? Or are you like trying to tutor somebody? And then what's your preferred approach? Do you want real life cases, hypothetical situations, problem solving, whatever? And then it does a Socratic approach. And you're the Greek representation. Why don't you tell everybody what the Socratic approach means?
Oh
Live
God.
from Greece.
Well, I mean, it's the question. I don't really know a ton about it because he didn't live where I live. But
Oh,
yeah,
okay. Well, I'll
basically like
take you off.
asking a lot of questions, but you can probably
Never gives the answer,
right,
nudges and encourages, and it's literally meant to continue through a deliberate set of questioning to actually get to the user to actually discover the answer on their own.
right. I think, yeah,
And
yeah.
And so this is really what this study together piece is. It's like this is a deliberate approach to education to allow any learner anywhere with ChatGPT access. And likely I think there's probably going to be some sort of, I mean, my guess for this is that we'll see this later in the year. We'll talk about it on some other podcasts where it's
Mhm.
literally like a tool that they're for education. You know, they have ChatGPT for business. They'll likely have ChatGPT for education. And then that will really start the sort of like the big shift in how everybody's learning. And so, I don't know your take. What do you like? I mean, I think this is the path to the two sigma to solve the two sigma problem. And I mean, are we missing something here? I mean, is this not like what's wrong with this approach?
I I I mean, I don't have this to play with, but I mean, even what we have now is really kind of approaching it. It's just, all the stuff we're seeing now is uh, taking things that are already there and refining them and connecting them together and sort of like narrowing it and focusing it, really, right?
Yep.
Um,
Well, what
with those
about
big sets of prompts and sets of system. I don't know. I'm not using the right word term for it, but
no, you are. It's
because it's
system
not really a
prompts and
prompt.
instruction. It's instruction. You know, it's
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
system prompt stuff and other, instruction.
Mhm.
The looking at it from an educator standpoint, something just occurred to me, like from a FileMaker class standpoint, what I used to do, and maybe you do the same thing, I would have people come to these classes. It was actually a multi. I was very proud of a multi modal. I don't know
Mhm.
different formats of training that I could offer to people. So
Mhm.
classroom was one thing. I love classroom. Frankly, I
Mhm.
miss it. You know, COVID kind of killed it for me. But and now I just do like the big ones at like training day, and there's just too many people to really engage. I used to love having 10 or 12 people in a class, looking them all in the eye, adjusting the speed of the course, using their actual, I was doing as much as I could as a human,
Yeah.
to not necessarily be the sage on the stage and try to be more of a guide on the
Yeah.
side. Smaller groups is more
I
likely
tried
that
to
type
do
of
that
thing.
with 30 people last year at Engage EU, and I'm going to do that again with an AI class there, like in a 3 hour class.
Mm,
I mean, you can do a lot less content a lot more deeply because you're making
yeah.
sure like most of the class can actually do it. Um,
Yeah, we had
but yeah, that's hard
60.
when you get a larger class. And Zoom
We
is yeah, Zoom is magic. The other thing that's
we
weird, let's throw it in there, throw it out there. If you're teaching in a classroom, if you have everybody in the class log into Zoom and turn off audio off, microphone and everything, then you could ask anyone in the class if they ask a question about how to do something or they're stuck on something, they can share their screen and
I
then it
like that.
shows on the projector or on everybody else's screen. And then they can work through it, and other people in the room can sort of help. And then we're seeing someone actually get stuck. If one person's stuck, somebody else is stuck on a given thing. So it's kind of
And
weird. Yeah. Plus, you can record the whole thing, including everyone's speaking. They can turn their microphone on while they're asking a question. It's just vastly better. And you can send out sample files. So, like as during the class, you can send out, data tables or another updated file or
hmm.
whatever, just in the Zoom because it's perfect for distributing. Anyway, so that's one of
Well,
the
I
other
mean,
things I
that's
try to do in
we're in
classrooms.
the Zoom era, and you know, reluctantly, I forfeit that classroom training is probably behind us. That was really, I felt like that was where I was at my best as a educator, was just in front of people.
Yeah.
But even
I've seen you shine so many times when you came up and taught classes for customers we had in Portland. It was great.
oh, thank you, man. I appreciate it. Those
I'm
were
sure
fun
you remember
times,
this.
and
Yeah.
I do. It was probably like 20 something years ago, though. That's how old we're getting. But no,
Yeah.
even back then, the approach that I thought was the most effective was like I would say, look, even if you're coming to take my class, you should go watch my lynda.com course, which is the
Mhm.
basics. Like just that's your primer. Do yourself a favor, do that. So now you're
Mhm.
getting a video training, then you show up for in classroom. Then I would deliberately say to people, okay, look, you're probably going to have some I had this policy where anybody who took my class, they just had a lifetime subscription. They could come back to any public class I was teaching and take it again, just
Mm-hmm.
because, like,
Do that too.
I'm not saying I'm a assuming they're not learning something, but like I know when I go to conferences or I take a class or whatever it is, like all of a sudden I learn something and I start focusing on it, and then all of a sudden, half a day's gone by and I've missed a bunch of stuff that the instructor's talking about, and I just want another shot at it. So I would try to
Yeah,
do
yeah, yeah.
that.
So light bulbs come on, and then that makes other things that didn't make sense the first time. Also, the content keeps changing, right?
And the content keeps
Yeah.
changing too, like
Curriculum.
updated versions and whatnot. And
Hmm.
then the other thing I did was we started offering mentoring to people in the class, and meaning afterwards, which you really need, not just coming back to take the class again, but you just probably have one or two questions. Let's do some Zoom one-on-one mentoring stuff. And that ended up being really popular. We actually have some other people here at iSolutions that
Hmm.
really excel at the mentoring stuff.
Hmm.
Then towards the end, well, I don't know, we're not at the end or whatever, but actually, then I started doing remember 42U School and
Yep.
Quasar, those ring a
Yep.
bell. Those are these programs that Claris was doing where they would go to these coding universities and take coding kids and then teach them, like do fast
Whole
track
new
boot camp
thing, and
FileMaker
that's like
training.
that's coming again with Apple.
With the Apple
Yeah,
Developer Academy. Oh,
yeah,
great
Apple.
plug.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's exactly
yeah,
what it
yeah.
is. So it's I think maybe underway. And
It
so
is.
what happens
Yeah.
is once the learners come out the end of the tunnel, they are now available for hire or internships with FileMaker companies, right? So I taught like, I mean, there's like 100 or I don't know, it's 180 or something like that kids out there that went through that program that I got to teach, and I'm so proud of it because
Hmm.
I go to DevCon, I see them speaking, I see where they end up. One's even ended up back, contracting with us at iSolutions. Like it's just so cool to see
Wow.
people's journey. But one of the things I was experimenting with back there as okay, do the video training, show up for the class, do the mentoring afterwards. Then I created this thing. The first thing I ever did, we've probably talked about this on the Matt and Matt podcast, but the first thing I ever did with AI ever was I created and I just kept it to myself. So whatever, you'll have to trust me that this actually happened.
Hmm.
But the FileMaker Learning Companion, I just ended up calling it the Claris Learning Companion after a while. But it was just a FileMaker application that you could type in a question about FileMaker, and it would go to OpenAI and answer, create a calculation or script or give you an
Right.
answer. Sounds novel now, but dude, like in 2020, this was a big deal, right? Like, like, oh my God, we can do this. So I started having the learners in the 42, it's probably by the time I was doing Quasar. I had a couple of these cohorts where I was giving them that tool. They were the only people I shared it with, and I would say, use this to embellish your training. So it was really kind of like the guide on the side or the AI, tutor. I'm not saying I executed like the Alpha School did or anything, but that was the intent of giving that other tool. I'll even say that one of the private on-site trainings that I did, it was a nursing school, and a bunch of adult learners, and they had a student worker that worked with their department that they invited to the FileMaker training, and they said, look, she doesn't know anything about FileMaker. The rest of us, this is like the third time we've done this class and whatever. But this one over here, she might fall a little behind. And so what I said to her before the class was, I go, look, this is your special assignment. Have you used ChatGPT before? She's like, no, not really. I go, you're gonna use ChatGPT. The second you have a question, I want you to ask ChatGPT the question before you ask me, and I just
Hmm.
want to
Hmm.
measure to see
Hmm.
where you're at. And it could have been age, could have been just she's a really smart kid or whatever. But the ChatGPT learner in the class, like not only finished our exercises, but she was like urging me, where are the exercises for tomorrow? Like where, like she was basically done with everything and now on to creating the solution by the time we were into the morning of day two.
Yeah.
So,
So what I would kind of wonder is like, did she learn it, or did she just get the answer and put it in?
mm,
Like, how much was internalized? Because we've talked about
well,
some other stuff on this podcast about how studies have been done that showing people actually are much worse at things.
I don't
Uh,
know if we have talked about that, and we should. Like those are
yeah.
there's been a like a real swell. I don't have any of those prepared. My apologies, but you're absolutely right. There's a ton of studies that are specifically around like it's comprehension, right? Like sure you
Yeah.
got the answer, but do you really know it? So I mean you're the philosopher here. Um how much does it matter?
Well, so
I
two
don't have a side on
examples.
this. I don't have a side on this. I'm
I
curious your
kind
thoughts.
of do. So if you don't know how to multiply in your head 171 by 263.4,
Hmm.
That's not an important skill anymore.
Right. You know that back when Texas Instruments made the personal
Hmm.
calculator, that teachers literally protested, like had
Yep.
signs, and they would out on strike in front of schools saying no calculators in the classroom. And that was their primary argument was, well, you're not learning anything. Well, did it matter that we don't know what
Yeah.
163 times 80 is? I mean,
Yeah.
like,
I think you should be able to do it on paper. You should understand the mech, it's not like you should just ignore and not even have any idea that you can actually, put two numbers down and do it by either the old method or the new method of how to do that. But
well, this
but
is an
like if you
argument I
if you have
lose with my wife. If to give you a little bit more ammo, I lose this all the
Mhm.
time because I say this constantly. I go, why? I would just tell the kids to use AI. I'm just like, just why don't you teach them how to use this tool? Like the genie's out of the bottle. Stop marveling at the genie. Teach them how to, make the genie do what they want. And she's like, well, but school isn't about the facts. It's about learning how to learn. And she always gets me with that
Mhm.
because she's right. Like it's about the mechanics of it. Like, we all said
Mhm.
geometry, algebra. Like, what do I need algebra for? Like,
Yeah,
when am I ever going to
everything.
need this? Well, it's problem solving and critical thinking and, challenge
Logic.
based learning and
Yeah.
logic. I think that's probably the sleeper thing
Mhm.
there the most. So are we deteriorating our comprehension by using AI tool? Well, this is what I would
Some
propose.
studies are
I would
saying that. Yeah.
well, if you're using it as an oracle, as a question answer machine, hey, give me the answer, and then you get the answer. Or hey, I need this snippet of code, and it just gives you the code. That's one thing. If you're using it in this like
Mhm.
Socratic method that we talked about here, where it's not giving you answers deliberately, it's been instructed
Right.
not to do that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So then it's maybe like forcing you to learn a little bit, I guess, maybe. I don't
Yeah, but
know. I'm not where I
I
land on
guess,
this.
so the calculator example is one end, but all the way at the other end, I would say is maybe some sort of understanding the why, maybe the philosophy of something, but like bringing it right to FileMaker. What is it that makes a script good practice? Where are the points? What are
But
the script steps that tend to fail and what are the ones that never fail,
all
right?
right, if
There's
we
no
take
point
AI,
in putting an error trapping step after a set variable command because it doesn't fail. It's never gonna give you some error.
if
Uh, right.
if we take it out of the classroom, like kids
Mm,
learning, like basic information to equip them for life, and then we're talking about like I'm using AI to ask it how to create this script.
mhm.
I guess the challenge I would propose is shouldn't it just write the the script?
Yes, but you still have to understand.
But do you?
Yeah, because the script's not going to put in the right error trapping. It's going to miss
What if
some of
it
the
does?
logic because
Oh,
because
I'm saying it would. I would do that.
well, I guess I'm saying you know what you want the thing to do. You have a vision in your mind of what you want it to do and what kind of errors are going to happen, the thinking fast stuff, right?
Yes. Yep.
AI does not know that. It doesn't know the intention. You give it an instruction of what you want to do, but it doesn't know the intention or the level of. There's a lot of things so far.
Isn't that up to us? Isn't it
And
up
I
to
think
us to
that's it. Yes,
express
it
our
is. It's up
intention?
to us. So we
Yeah.
have to give it the intention better. But I still think you have to, as a developer, you have to really be able to understand it. You have to be able to look at that code later without AI and really, really understand and know what it's doing. So that's skill. That's skill. That's not so
I,
much.
I think what you're
Um,
circling the wagons on, I think this is interesting because you and I by the way, a lot of good feedback on our episode on AI and jobs and,
mhm,
work and whatnot. And one of the things we talked about there is something I would propose here as well too. It's the shift from developers becoming hands on the keyboard, entering in lines of code. And we don't
mhm.
have code in FileMaker, so, but whatever our version is
Yeah, I still call it that.
to, or well, we all do, but I think there's a really important distinction between how we don't have code in FileMaker and how other platforms do because of AI's impact. Claude Code can literally take a job spec and create a working prototype with all the error trapping and considerations that you need
Well,
because it's
it's only
code, but we
it's only
don't.
a function of how it's displayed to you. If script workspace, which code
Yeah,
is actually XML, it is actually text code. If you could just type it freeform and it would, help make it, that's code. That's straight up procedural
yeah.
code. It's not
I
object
just
oriented per se. It's procedural.
Right. But
But
it's the object oriented part is what makes AI be able to create applications, front to end applications. I guess we're
Right.
somewhat, I mean, it might be good news that we're shielded in FileMaker, that the FileMaker mechanism, the Draco mechanism, the UI, the structure of the client itself is so
Yeah.
antiquated. It's 40 years old. I mean, good Lord.
Yeah.
It's so not meant for AI. As a matter of fact, I would, when we did the jobs
Unix is
discussion,
way more than 40 years old, and yet its core, many of the core things about it are still true. TCP/IP goes back to a super, super long time ago, and just really the whole, and some of those things they just work, right? They've
well,
been evolved and they
a
just work.
protocol should work. Like, look at a protocol,
Yeah.
it shouldn't ever not work, right? Like, it should, like when you're talking about something that's 40 years old, when you talk about protocols or infrastructure
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
security, those are great that they're 40 years old. But a
Right.
client and interface and development
Yeah.
techniques that are 40 years old, it just can't. I
It's
mean,
That's true. That's true. But you're talking about sort of the engine, like the basic thing.
yeah, I'm talking about the
Uh,
engine. And
yeah. Yeah.
so what I would actually, so in that episode that we talked about,
Mhm.
we were looking at Zuckerberg talking to Satya Nadella, and they were pining over like how much of the code that is created by Microsoft and
Mm.
Meta is AI, and both of them said like south of 50%, which is actually insane that half of the code that those companies
Yeah.
are generating is AI. But the most important thing that they said was, well, it's and mostly it's because like most of our stuff is like legacy system. Like all the stuff that's greenfield that we start from scratch, we just have an
Mhm.
idea. We do all that with AI. Boom. Here's the
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah.
Here's our spec. Here's our intent. And then it creates the code. But the reality of it is they have a bunch of other code that is just not as easy to modify and edit code as it is to actually
Mhm.
create it from scratch. And I think all of us who've created FileMaker systems have lived that. Like the maintenance system versus the build from scratch. I think all of us would want to kind of build something from scratch, right? Or at least we would assume it'd be more modern and stable if we
Yeah.
did. So I'm just saying that the FileMaker tool, like we don't have we don't have lines of code that we can generate. So I guess we're
Yeah.
safe. I guess we're insulated because
Yeah.
AI is not coming for creating FileMaker applications from scratch. It's just not happening. Like by the time
I just don't agree. I mean, there's so much of it is calculation. You can shift kind of where you
no,
put
I just said
complexity in
it's not coming
FileMaker.
for us. I said we're fine. Like AI is not
Oh,
going
well,
to
I guess what I'm saying is it's going to be a great tool to assist you as a FileMaker developer. That's what I'm
oh,
saying.
for sure.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
it's
yeah.
never,
Okay.
I'm saying we're safe because we're hiding under this 40-year-old cocoon of a development paradigm that cannot be AI'd. In order for Claris to
Hmm.
tear down the client and create a development environment that would be optimized for AI, it would take them so much cost and so much engineering that by the time they were done, they may have already like
I don't know. It sounds like
missed the boat.
I'm not sure if I'm supposed to be taking what you're saying in a good way or a bad way
Oh,
because
good.
I don't know if there's a middle.
Well, I'm
Right.
just, yeah, I'm just, so, really what, sort of got me onto the topic of building in FileMaker at first was just like, when AI becomes a tool for us, if
Mhm.
it's the guide on the side or the tutor or the assistant or whatever it is, our roles go from developer figuring out what the function is and the syntax is and the
Mhm.
error trapping and the procedures that we have to memorize, we become orchestrators. So we say, well, I,
Mhm.
I know what my intent is and I know what the bigger picture is, and I'm going to direct these tools to help me execute on that.
Right.
And we get to the outcome that we need, and it's it's
Mhm.
it's primarily influenced by us as the humans. I just think that that's what our
Mhm.
role is going to be in the future. We're especially when things become agentic. We don't have anything agentic in
Yeah.
the FileMaker space at the moment, but when we
Well, I
have,
love this. I love this. Like you when you say orchestrator, of course, the music
of
light
course,
bulb goes
yeah,
on. Right. So as a developer, as what we've been doing for all this time, we have had skills in uh, scoring, writing notes by pencil, coming up with a melody, figuring out the harmony, um, orchestrating, conducting, playing, all of these other skills we've had to have. But one important one of the ones that really makes us earn our living is orchestrating, right? That's the one
yep,
where you are taking all the components and putting it together a certain way that makes it amazing.
yep.
Uh, like I can't remember the name of the guy, but um, I'll put a link to an album in the show notes that is one of the most exciting examples of symphony orchestration I've heard ever. But
Oh,
anyway,
cool. Please
um,
do.
yeah, Eva Cassidy, who's amazing singer, It's a good story. I'll tell it. She died of ovarian cancer and then became gigantic famous. Like all of her music is just phenomenal. Her voice is just amazing. And
Hmm.
she did this album live at Blues Alley, which you have to go. I think that's the right name of it. And an orchestrator who did a lot of film stuff fell in love with it and wrote orchestration for a bunch of the songs, got the original recordings, separated her voice out, and had the
Hmm.
London Orchestra, London Symphony, or another one
Oh, cool.
record and play it as though she was singing it. But they basically just used her pre-recorded vocal, and I'm getting the shivers because these songs are just ridiculously good. Um, uh, and so the orchestration is so brilliant, and it's her voice, after long after the fact. I can't think of any other album that was done that way, where the orchestration was added to something that existed 20, 30 years before.
Do you, would you,
Anyway,
it's interesting. Would you have the same emotional, visceral reaction that you have? Like literally, you're verklempt at the moment,
I
like
am.
telling the story.
Yeah.
Would you have the same reaction if there was an AI version where it just said, sing like this person sings and it got it perfect? And they said, okay, now sing this with the London Symphony Orchestra or something like that.
Yeah, I would.
Hmm.
And I think there's some people who say that there's no actual creativity in AI songs, but they're wrong.
Well, you know what? Can I share a AI story? Well, I have two things. We'll kind of wrap with this because I know that your
Yeah, we do
wife
have
is
to
sitting
wrap.
on
I
this.
got to get going. Yeah.
Your wife is sitting on the side of the road with her
Yeah.
check
Well,
engine light, waiting for
she's
you
at
to
a
pick her
safe
up.
place, but I do have to go pick her up, and yeah, car broke down.
Okay, well, two things I'll end with. One, a wife story of my own. So, I met my wife on her birthday, 28 years ago, and her birthday was last Friday. And so, I saw this thing that has been going around the internet where, the movie Rent. It is the absolute opposite of things that I enjoy and consume.
Hmm.
I'm like the evil character in the play Rent is basically me. And so like, but that's my wife's favorite thing ever. Like it's her favorite thing, which is really odd. It's a strange dynamic in our relationship.
Yeah.
But there's a somewhat famous song for people that know theater, and it's called Seasons of Love, and they start off with like 5,000 something something
Hmm.
something minutes. Like it's just like this passage of time. So so I was last week I was looking on Twitter and I saw this like scene from The Office. It was like the last episode where Steve Carell left, and apparently the cast had written their own version of Seasons of
Hmm.
Love, and they surprised him while the camera was rolling by singing it to him in this scene, and he was really emotional. It was this whole thing, and I was like, oh
Hmm.
wow, cool. And I go, oh my God, I'm going to do that for my wife because it was her birthday, but it was also the 28th anniversary of the day that we met, right? So I
Yeah.
go into AI and I say, I upload, we did this like meet cute video of how we met and everything, like for our
Yeah.
wedding. So I fed that video into Gemini. We wrote each other letters at, where we talked about how when we met and how long ago it was or whatever. And I
Hmm.
put those into Gemini. And then I said, rewrite the Seasons of Love track with our story. And it started off with like 14,257,000 minutes. Like,
Seconds
well,
ago. Yeah.
how do we
Yeah.
tell the 28 years or whatever? So then I go to Sono or not Sonos, whatever the one is. We've talked the one with that we
Yeah.
had that last year, and I said write this in the Seasons of Love, and then it like within an hour I had my version of Seasons of Love with our story, and I played it for
Mhm.
the next day. I haven't made my wife cry with joy in all these 28 years, and I was able to do that the other day, and it was AI. So I was
Yeah.
able to use AI to get an emotional reaction. So I thought,
Well, it was AI, but you're the orchestrator.
I was
You were
orchestrating
you were
exactly.
directing the top
Yes.
level.
AI couldn't have done that on
Yeah.
its own. I couldn't have just been like, do something that's going to make my wife cry with joy. It wouldn't have worked. Uh,
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I mean, you had to give it a whole bunch of information, like, well, back when we did, yeah, like I wrote the FileMaker songs. I really would love to make
yeah,
some of them.
people should
You
check
know,
that out. It was a good one. I forget what
yeah,
the
I'll have
episode
to
was
re-put it
exactly,
up.
but
Yeah. But it was a
um,
really good rock song. I mean, super clear lyrics,
awesome.
you know?
It was the same. I used that same service, by the way. I still had that account from when we did the
Yeah, that's
episode.
UDO, by the way, UDIO.
Udio, that's what it was. Okay, last thing, and we'll sign off. I just have a AI nerd thing, and I'll report back to you on our next pod. But check out my new glasses. Wait, hold on.
Wait, what's going on there? Uh-oh.
Do you like my new glasses?
Hey, wait. I saw a little square. Yeah, I do. They have a display in them, don't they?
They do, and it's a little more
Damn.
profound because I'm on the camera here. But
Yeah.
so
And a
on
little ear thing I
Friday,
saw.
Yeah, that's actually the touch screen. That's how you
Huh.
move it. But they look they're super glary when they're on the computer, but in like real
Yeah.
life, you don't get, you're not reflecting a computer screen in front of you, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So on Friday, I'm doing a speaking gig on AI and education, and
You're a glass
it
hole.
has a
I'm sorry, I just remember that
I
term.
am a glass hole.
The Google
I have
Glass.
I
If you wore
it
them, you were such a jerk. You were a glass hole. Sorry.
I totally a glass hole.
So who makes
Um,
those? First of all, we do
So
autographs.
these are so I found these because I was watching the TED Talk with Palmer Luckey. He's the CEO of Anduril. He's actually the guy
Mhm.
that created Oculus, right? When he was like 15.
Mhm.
And so I'm watching it and I see a little like it again in real life, they're not that you can't really tell, but I saw a little something and only because
Yeah,
he's him and he's the guy who invented Oculus, I was like, and he's talking about AI tech. I'm like, I bet you those
yeah,
glasses or something. And then like a
yeah.
week later, I'm listening to him on a podcast and someone goes, "Hey, what was up with the glasses?" And I was like, oh, "What was up with the glasses?" And these are the Even Realities G2s. He goes, I was cheating. They don't let you do use a teleprompter on TED Talk, which is kind of
Oh yeah,
goofy if you ask me. But he
yeah.
goes, "Yeah, I cheated." So I put it into the thing and I go, "Oh my God, I'm doing that." Because I just did
Focus at infinity or whatever. Yeah.
yeah, basically. So I just did the keynote at Engage, and I had to memorize like 5 minutes. And even though they had the teleprompter on the floor, like it's not helpful. You're not going to sit there and stare at the floor, and you got to get the beats. So I just tried to memorize it, and I just thought
Hmm.
if I just had this, I could just be more breezy, and I'd hit every word that I wanted
Hmm.
to, and I wouldn't even have to think about it, and it would be great. So I'm doing a 90-minute session on Friday just using the I do have backup, just in
Hmm.
case everything crashes, but I've run through this like 4 or 5 times and it's perfect, dude. Like the
Hmm.
first time it messed with my brain a little bit, but now I have
Yeah.
it. So it's just like any teleprompter. It knows when to stop. And if I take a question, it doesn't like go
Hmm.
haywire. It just knows if I don't say those
And
words.
it's like focused at infinity, so you're like looking
It
through it or
is.
something. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
cool.
it's just like green screen, like, green text and,
Hmm.
kind of bright and it's like right in
That's
your
super cool
line of sight.
technology. Yeah.
So I'll let you know. I'll have video of it so you can critique what it looks like. But I
Okay,
thought that was kind of fun.
repeat what they are. So we can.
Even Realities, not a sponsor because we don't have any sponsors, but
Yeah.
EVEN Realities. They're $550, dude, and you can
Mm-hmm.
get your prescription lenses. They did come from China, and I have a personal policy of no China slop, but whatever. This is not slop. These are amazing. I'm very happy with it. Took like 2 weeks to get here. I suspect maybe because this dude mentioned it on a podcast and a bunch of people like me went and bought it. I've mentioned this to a couple folks in the Clarish world who've purchased these. So I assure you by Engage, our next Engage, all my presentations I'll be doing either with these or some other thing, AI teleprompting. So
I could see a ton of other value for that. I mean, like as
well,
a motorcycle rider, I would love to
it
have a
is.
view of what's going on behind me.
It has translation as well too. So
Oh,
like when
yeah.
people are talking a different language around you, it interprets what they're saying in the glasses
Damn.
somewhat subtly.
Okay.
So and a couple other things,
So
but
we'll have to
anyways,
continue this. I think it's great to talk about education. Yeah, I think it's I still am so excited about learning things about how to teach and our job
same.
as teachers, as orchestrations of people's learning, is also greatly changed by this, right? So students can do that. We've talked about it a bunch of times. It's kind of replacing us a bit. Um,
Hopefully enhancing us, right?
I
And
think that's what
expanding our
I'm really
reach.
aiming for. I make my students use AI for stuff. Some of them just don't want to, right? Not everybody's excited about it and use it as much as you and I. But
Yep. We're getting
uh,
there.
yeah, 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 yeah. Um, but there's a point in there somewhere.
Yeah. Well, the point is we're
Well,
still
yeah,
learning,
but
we're
yeah,
still
enhancing
orchestrating.
it.
I'm
Yeah,
hopeful for the future. I'm hopeful for children who are in the classroom learning with these tools. I'm hopeful for
yeah.
adults. I'm hopeful for myself. I use these tools to teach
Hmm.
myself as well too. I'm part of the education process on both ends of
Hmm.
it. We both are. So,
Yeah.
yeah, this is
Accountability. You're going to be accountable to a human differently than you're going to be accountable to your software. That's a big thing.
uh yeah, that's interesting. I think it's the
Yeah.
personalization aspect. As a matter
And
of
also
fact,
with
as our
encouragement. Yeah, there's that. But I mean, encouragement from a human means more than encouragement from,
oh, for sure.
also connections. People, when someone takes one of my classes and they want to connect with someone else in the community. I love,
For sure.
wiring that stuff up, helping get jobs, whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, and those are things you're not going to get. So there's still, I think, there's a really, really important part for us educators.
I I would offer up as our sort of sign off here, I would offer up that a topic for a future conversation is AI personalization because
Hmm.
AI
Hmm.
personalization, it's coming, it's happening, it may be coming to the Claire's platform near you. It's definitely coming to entertainment. It's coming to business applications. I think we should talk about personalization. We can use the personalization in education as sort of a jumping off point, maybe.
Yeah, there's a bunch of exciting things there for sure. All right.
Now, more importantly, go rescue your wife, sitting there waiting for you to go pick her up.
Yeah.
Always great to sit and chat with you. And thanks,
Good.
Alexi, for hanging in there at the end. I'll report back on our next episode how much of a disaster my AI teleprompting
Things went.
glasses
Yeah, yeah,
was,
yeah.
but I'll let everybody know.
And let's record soon. Yeah.
I look forward to it. Yeah, let's
All right.
do it in a couple of weeks.
All
Thanks,
right.
everybody. This has been
Bye.
fun. We'll talk
Bye.
soon. Bye.